Okay, Christy, we are going to go over the pelvic lift. Some people call it the pelvic tilt or the pelvic curl, but it's called the pelvic lift. And this is going to be a tutorial breaking it down completely. So it's not meant to be full hard exercise, but more educating us on how do we do it, where's our foot placement, all the good stuff, our goals, all that kind of thing. So spring-wise, we're going to be working on the same springs that you did in your warm-up. If you started off on 4 springs, then you're going to do 4 springs for your running and this pelvic lift. If you start on 3 springs, then you're going to be doing 3 springs. I'm going to be working on 3 springs with Christy. And if you have a balanced body or other maker of your apparatus other than what I'm working on is a Grotz apparatus, you might have some variation in your springs. And we'll try to have something that helps you decipher that, whether it's 1.5 or colors or what. But I will be working on 3 springs with Christy. As you get more advanced, you actually want to work on 2 springs with this exercise because it's almost like a skateboard is getting away from you and you have to use those tiny little muscles to pull yourself back together. So the lighter the spring is on this exercise, the more challenging it is. So we're going to start with your arch of the foot on the corner of each bar here. Good. And so that naturally makes your feet turn out. So I want to go over briefly the how you position your feet. So it is a good rule of thumb if your knees always point between your big toe and your little toe. And that gives you really good healthy hips and knee joints. So if you turn out your feet a little bit in a Pilates stance, then I want your outer thighs and your seat and the back of your inner thighs working to also have those knees turn out a little bit so that they're pointing still between your big toe and little toe. That might not seem too hard, but if I was just relaxed, my knees would want to just roll in. And so they would be pointing forward while my toes are pointing out, and that is definitely not healthy for your hips or for your knees. And as we get wider with the toes, the goal would be that your knees would turn out accordingly. So for Christy, who isn't a professional dancer, I will have your feet just turned out at this nice angle on your arch. And yet, this knee pretty much does point between your big toe and your little toe, but this guy likes to hang in a little bit. So it has to work a little bit harder at opening up your hip. So it's got to open up a little more. And you might need to talk to it all the time. If you were an advanced or super advanced and really wanting to work on your turnout, or you were a professional ballerina and continuously working on that turnout, you would turn your feet out wider in this exercise. And then you could even advance it and start sliding down the bar with your feet. So really, really work on challenging those areas. But I want to work on other things that are more important first than just your turning out of your knees, okay? So we are going to go ahead and try not to tilt your pelvis towards you yet, but see if you can just engage your bottom, squeezing it. Good. And then using your abdominals and your bottom, start tilting your pelvis towards you, curling that tailbone up. Beautiful. Knees are always going to want to roll in to help you, so you have to be aware of that. Good. Keep lifting up. And everyone wonders, how high do I lift up my pelvis? So a good rule of thumb here is that you're going to put your hands together as if you're praying, and you're going to put them underneath your seat. So the arms are pretty long. They can be straight. So that's a good question. They don't want to be like hiked up here. Nice and long. And then you're going to roll down until you do not squash your hands flat. So you'll always be a little lifted up off of there. Good? So that is the height of your pelvis in this exercise. Okay? So I want you to keep your knees in line with your toes and use the back of your thighs. You could do this exercise all day long with your quads. You could do it all day long with your feet. That's not what you're here for, right? I do want you to keep your hands where they were. Yeah. And I want you to go out using the back of your thighs and your bottom and hold. So right here is when we commonly plaster our hands down. So you want to keep that nice height and then go ahead and come in. Good. Sometimes we lift up too high the rest of our back, so a few more vertebrae right under here, so right through here may have come up. So as you're coming back in, try to get those vertebrae to get back down and just have only the ones needed to be up. Does that make sense? Good. And coming up. Good. Good, good, good. Go ahead and take away your hands and roll down your seat. Excellent, because I don't want to keep you in too much of a work position. So to review, you're going to want your knees in between your big toe and little toe. So your feet are turned out. Your bottom is lifted that high up off the mat. And your muscles that you're engaging are your back of your legs and your seat. And your stomach's always supporting your body, okay? Really good. So that is what you're trying to do. You're also not letting your knees roll in as you go out. That is a common tendency that you're going to want to roll your knees in to always try to help out with the quad. Okay, so sometimes I might start out my client with getting into the position, and I can tell that they're going to use their quads a lot. So something to get you out of that habit is go ahead and squeeze your seat and start rolling up your tailbone, and we're not going to move the carriage at all, and you're going to keep rolling up your bottom and the next bone and the next bone and the next bone until the only thing down is your shoulders. Good. At this point, go ahead and push out a little bit. Most people have pushed out to here. That's a little overkill, maybe like there. So I make them up. Let's use the back of your thighs and your bottom to pull that carriage back home, and then hold it home as you roll and lengthen down one bone at a time. And I'll have them go all the way down, and I'll have them repeat that. So we're going to hold the carriage now. This time we really aren't going to move, and we're going to keep those knees turned out and use the back of your legs and that seat to roll your body all the way up, pushed out a little bit there, so you're going to, hold it in, and you're going to roll down your sternum or the chest bone, the back of your ribs. Good, sorry, going all the way down. I should have stopped you a little bit earlier. So go ahead and come on up all the way, and this time when you come down, stop where you would hit your hands. Good, so about right there, okay? Don't go any lower. And then you're ready, you've engaged all the right muscles, you're foolproof, and you can go ahead and go out with those muscles and pulling in. Good, nice, out.
All the way?
And pulling in. Not using the knee joint, but the back of the legs in the seat and pulling in. And it's really like every time before you push out, you have to be like, huh, let me use the back of the legs and seat. You have to send that message, and otherwise you won't use those muscles. Last one, and coming in. Good, and roll down. Good. So those are pretty much the basics of this exercise. But if you are a little further basic, something that I think gets lost, and some of my instructors have really worked hard on with me, is the opposition and the stretch in the lower back that you should be getting on this exercise. Before I say that though, some basic questions that often come up is, am I a straight line in my back? So is it like kind of like that? Or am I really tilted towards me? So go ahead as you come in, really tilt your pelvis towards you. Yeah, really, really tilted. So, or now go into a straighter pelvis. Yeah. So that is a common question. Which one am I? Am I in a full-on tilt, or am I in a straight line? Okay, and roll on down. Good. So as you're learning this exercise, I want you in a tilt, because I want you to feel that bottom and that back of the legs quite a bit. I want you to be aware though, are you pushing? So that's why I gave you all those extra little steps. You don't want your hip flexors to be engaged or be on fire, so that you got to be talking to yourself and say, turn those guys off, turn these guys on. It's kind of as simple as that, as sending a message to your muscles. And this is a really important fundamental exercise to build for other exercises that you're required to be stable with your bottom and the back of your legs. So you really want to get this one down. But revisiting that, am I a straight line or am I a tilt? In the beginning, I am going to want you to be in a tilt, but then I always want length. I never want compression in that lower back. So let's think about as if your spine continues all the way down to your tailbone, really nice and long, but then you even have a tail. Your spine is so long. And I've got your tail, and I'm pulling it. And so when you curl up your tailbone, I want you to think of still lengthening your tailbone away from your upper body. And you're going to go out with the back of your legs in your seat and hold. And as you come in, I'm pulling that tailbone. That's great. And going out and pulling long. And this time I want you to stay here. You okay? Good. And I'm going to put my hands on your pelvis, and I can always get that much more, right? On your own, you really can't. And now go out with the back of your legs and your seat and coming back in. But an instructor can help you get that length, that feeling, that pull, that opposition, and go out. Once an instructor or a friend, I guess, has been able to help you get that feeling, then it's something that you can start engaging and go ahead and roll down. That's all right. So that would be the next step that I'd want you to try to get. We never want to compress into the back. We're just trying to really engage the right muscles. And then we don't just engage them, we use them to lengthen in the opposite direction. And that is the pelvic lift.